our next speaker. She is the CEO of Lobien Realty Group Incorporated, a property investment strategist, an active member of American and Japanese Chamber of Commerce, the chairwoman in Business Committee for European Chamber of Commerce Philippines, an advocate of women empowerment, a proud wife and a mother of two. Please give a warm welcome to Ms. Sheila Lobien.
Good morning, everyone. Always happy to be here and be part of Megaworld's event. Today, my role is to give you an update about what's going on in the Philippine real estate market. At the same time, give you trends and our expectation in the near and long term here in the property market. I'll be discussing about the office market, and I always share that it's one of the best barometer of a growing economy because once office spaces are built and taken, that means jobs are created in the market. And when people have jobs, then people will spend, people will buy property. I'll also talk about the outsourcing industry, the BPO industry. And despite what's going on around the world, the BPO industry here in the Philippines is still projecting growth. Afterwards, I'll talk about the provincial market, what's going on outside Metro Manila and nearby provincial areas, and then discuss a bit about the residential market. What are the properties right now? What are the demand of the public individuals after all the experience that they had during the lockdown? And then in the end, we'll give you our near-term expectations and some trends and how we see things moving forward. So let me start now by sharing my first slide. So this is COVID-19, and the pandemic has greatly affected what's going on around the country and around the world. And as you can see, the Philippine economy is always very sensitive to political, natural, and global financial risk. We've seen so many disasters, calamities, and economic crisis in the past. So the last one is the global financial crisis, which I have seen. But prior to that, there was also the Asian financial crisis and SARS in 2003. But we didn't really feel that. Today, what we have is a combination of both economic and health crisis. And it's more lethal because, of course, it affects everyone, not just here in the Philippines, but around the world. And as you can see, our GDP growth rate dropped significantly last year. However, a lot of financial companies, banks, not just here in the Philippines, but around the world are saying that this year we'll be able to post 6.5% growth rate again, which I think is a good story. And I'll show you another slide. This is just some of the economic indicators that you'll see. If you look at the employment rate, it's slowly moving up now. The OFW remittances, well, it went down during the lockdown, but then started to move up again and slowly recovering. Employment rate, obviously, it's not as high compared to pre-pandemic, but again, it is also moving up, which is positive for everyone. And the stock market, which is always a good indicator of the confidence of the companies, private sectors in the country, it's also moving up and giving a good indication that the businessmen, private sectors are also confident that the country will be able to recover and bounce back. And everyone's talking about bouncing back, especially this year. Now, us in the real estate industry, we always look at these key economic real estate indicators. So we look at the GDP from construction. This is from the trading economics. And what they're saying is that in the next 12 months, there will be an increase in construction. In fact, many are saying that construction costs will also move up simply because supply chain is also affected globally, and therefore the cost of building is also moving up. So properties probably now will be cheaper compared to properties that will be built few months or few years from now. We also study the real estate loans. This is the real estate loans coming from the residential individuals, locals, who are borrowing money to invest in the property market, and companies who are also borrowing money to build condos, office projects. This is both individuals and institutional. And as you can see, it is also slowly growing and steadily growing. And the projection is that it will move up in the next few years. Now, when we look at the building permits, obviously during the lockdown, it stopped because people cannot move, people cannot go out, and therefore a lot of activities were stopped. But in the next few years and months to come, the expectation is that it will move up again. And the economy is now slowly opening up. Activities are happening all over the metro and outside the provincial area. And hopefully when we turn to a relaxed not the GCQ, MECQ, more people will go out and then more projects will start to happen. The interest rate also, which is something that we closely monitor, as you can see, it's going down. And this is one of the ways that the country, the government is helping individuals and private sectors to move up the growth, pump up the economy. And if you have, of course, the credit rating, you can borrow money and invest, build projects, or buy a property. Now, this is a good story, and I'd like you to look at this. So, Philippines among the fastest to recover this 2021. This is from S&P Global, a US-based credit rating. And what's good to note is that they're saying that this year will post second highest in terms of growth rate after Vietnam, and then followed by Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand. And what they're saying is that in 2022, we will be higher than all of these countries. So Philippines now will be number one, followed by Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. So these are good news, and I'd always like to focus on the positive. There are so many negatives already, but if you look at the positive, the good things, even during crisis, there are so many opportunities. And just look at this, because these are data from reputable institutions saying that the country will recover in this year and in the next few years. So for now, we made this analysis. This is our own analysis, looking at all the positives that I have shared with you. We're still very optimistic and at the same time cautious because, this is a health crisis and the crisis will not end until everyone is vaccinated. Obviously, the country is still struggling in terms of that. However, hope is there. They are saying that light is there at the end of the tunnel. And we hear that all the time. So we have this conservative approach and we say that, yes, of course, the country will recover. But this crisis is a combination of health and economic crisis. So it's really very serious and it has affected the whole world. So our projection is that, yes, we will recover, but not immediately to the pre-pandemic level, which is at all-time high and everything was rosy. It will take time, but definitely we will see recovery in the next few years. Now let's go deeply and discuss a bit about the office market. And as shared, it's always one of the best indicator of a growing economy. Now you will see here that from Asian financial crisis up to global financial crisis, the office market is very resilient. The real estate market is always very resilient, meaning every after disaster or calamity or crisis, we are able to recover and bounce back. And in the global financial crisis, we're able to recover right away. It happened in 2009. We felt it in 2000, around that time, less than a year. In 2010 onwards, we're able to really see the boom in the real estate industry. So if you'll notice, the last 10 years, that was the best in the Philippine economy. We've seen growth not just in the office, but in residential, in the malls, in the hotels. All the big players are already here in the Philippines. All the big brands and all the big companies from US, Europe are already here. They have a headquarter here in the country. And despite that, when you look at the rental rates, from a mere 600 pesos or 700 in 2009, today, last year, we ended at around 1,200 pesos per square meter. So very steady growth and steadily increasing. So it's demand-driven. Companies are requesting and asking for space, and we have all the big developers in the country providing that, and Megaworld is one of them. Vacancy rate is 11%. Almost all the buildings here are still well tenanted. There are some pocket spaces left and right, primarily because the Chinese gaming market left the country, but slowly coming back again. And if you look at the average rental from 1,160 pesos, it's now down to 1,120. That's because of the softening in demand. However, slowly things are recovering, and there are other sectors in the real estate industry that is also recovering. This is the snapshot of the rental rates and land value. Now, you'll see that many CBDs have adjusted their rental rates simply because they want to retain their tenants and at the same time attract new ones. Now, the land value, if you look at the land value, prices of land per square meter, you'll be surprised that all of them are still moving up. Tumataas pa rin. Why? The simple answer here is that land is finite, and you can't multiply that, right? There are only few lands available all over the metro and all over the Philippines. And that's why the land value in all major CBDs are still moving up despite what's happening around us. Now, where are the demands coming from? The demand driver before and up to today, as you'll see, BPO, the outsourcing industry, is leading the way. We're the number one when it comes to call center voice work, and second when it comes to back office higher value work. India is leading the way in that front. A year ago or 3 years ago, the Chinese industry were leading the way, and they were taking spaces left and right and even taking condominiums left and right. But today they have shrunk by 50%. However, the good news is the BPO industry is still growing. And the others would be the typical brick and mortar companies, and they are still here in the country, and they are taking space. Now, the provincial outlook, and I think that's the main thing for today's discussion. What's happening outside Metro Manila? Why is it growing? It's growing because of the growth also in the economy, the growth in the outsourcing industry. A lot of big players have already saturated Metro Manila. And now the way forward is to move outside Metro Manila and to grow their business there. And why are they growing their business there? Primarily because land outside Metro is still cheap compared to, of course, Metro Manila. And at the same time, they also want to take advantage of the cheaper labor cost, fresh talent that they'll find outside Metro Manila. And as you will see here, 60% of this mixed-use township developments that Megaworld have actually initiated and started and pioneered long time ago, before the concept of mixed-use projects were popular. Megaworld is already doing it long time ago, and up to today, they are still pushing it. The township developments wherein you live, work, and play in one area. And what you can see here, from as far as Baguio all the way down to Dumaguete, and in Laguna, Cavite area, there are a lot of projects, mixed-use projects that the country is actually pushing for. The airports, a lot of road networks are moving to the southern part of town. And these are some of the mixed-use business districts that Megaworld had developed in the last how many years. And later on today, I'm sure they'll be able to discuss with you what's going on deeply in that southern part, the developments, the office, condo, and residential projects. Now, if you look at the provincial area, the rental rates there is half compared to here in Metro Manila. That's why a lot of companies, they are now moving outside the metro. That's also to pandemic-proof their operations, such that if, knock on wood, another lockdown will happen and Metro Manila is closed, then they can still work outside in nearby provincial areas. And these are some of the next wave cities that were identified by the outsourcing industry. These are some of the locations that they see and feel will grow in the next how many years. And Cavite is here and several parts of the Philippines. All these locations have the talent and the infrastructure to support a growing outsourcing industry, a growing community. And sharing here the demographics of Cavite. As you can see, it's very near Metro Manila. That's why it's growing. It's like an extension of Alabang already. It has, very near the airport. It has all the universities also. and the talent. And if you look at the minimum wage, it's well lower compared to what you'll pay the talent in Manila area. And there are a lot of major call center operators in Cavite already, such as American Power, Icor, Sutherland, Tascas, etc. And what's happening now in the BPO, the outsourcing industry? Just touching on this quickly, the BPO industry, as shared, even though the whole global economy have forecasted a decline of at least 3%, the Philippines outsourcing industry is still projecting growth. Currently, it's a 26 billion US dollar industry, employing more than what? 1.6 million Filipinos, and there are a lot of other industries closely related to this. This is a very important part of the Philippine economy, and the employees of this industry are the ones usually buying properties here in the Philippines also. So, as you will see, they are projecting a up to today 3 to 4% growth, and we did a survey. The industry has done a survey, and they're saying that almost half of them are still looking at growing. Only what? A mere 18% said that they will do some reduction. Now let's look at this. This is another good story to share. This is the digital city journey that the outsourcing industry also have identified. And they said that, in 2025, all these 25 locations or cities all over the metro are ripe and will be ripe for it's a mixed use area, a town wherein they can have the office, the residential, entertainment area, hotel in one location. And the main driver of this, of course, is the talent. They have realized that in all these parts of town, they will be able to hire local talents and they can grow their business. And this is good story for us. And Cavite is here, the southern part of town, Laguna, all the way up to the Philippines. Now, let's go now to the residential market outlook. Just briefly on this. So last year, the condominium supply versus take-up. So last year, the annual supply, there were like 25,000 square meters. The take-up was more than that. It reached beyond 30,000 square meters. And the forecast this year, the many combined developers, including Megaworld, they will be launching around 24,000 square meters. And the expectation is that 36,000 square meters will be take up. So more than what will be supplied. Now, if you look at the percentage of the take up from pre-selling price range last year, what are the attractive prices? So looking at this, a lot of buyers are very keen on the 7 to 15 million peso range per unit. And then the rest higher, the above 15 million. And very, I would say 1/4 are in the 3-7 million range. So this is the pie, this is the profile of the buyers, the price range that they're looking at. Now, what are the trends now in the condo market? So after the lockdown, many have realized that it's good to have a condo with a bigger facility, lots of open area so that fresh air can come in and natural disinfection can happen. And many condo developers now are addressing that. And definitely Megaworld, they are one of those developers who are very conscious in cleanliness of the facility, and the type of development that they do are the things that the buyers are looking for. So today and moving forward, more and more developers will look at building projects that will last, building projects that are healthy, because the mindset right now of a lot of Filipinos is that they have to be in a safe and healthy place. And when we say safe and healthy place, that means the property management is also very good. There's proper way of cleaning the facility. There's lots of open spaces inside the room, more lights, more natural air, ventilation can come in. And that's a very good way of building right now. And many Filipinos and buyers all over the world will also look for the same thing. So what's the new normal now? And I always say that new normal should be business as usual, because the country, the Philippines, we're a growing economy. The good story is that though yes, we're delayed compared to our Asian neighbors, but the country is focusing on so many build projects. And if you just look at how many projects are being launched and somehow done, you will see that many of them are actually located going south. So I'm from the south, and I would say I'm biased, right? I know the area really well, all the way to Alabang up to Cavite, Laguna. And for me, it's always easy to go from Makati to Alabang to Cavite area than from Makati going to Quezon City and northern part. And primarily because of the type of roads and networks that are already built and that are already in place. So the Skyway and Muntinlupa Exchange Road, now there's Calax, Cavite Exchange, etc. I forgot the type of X that they have, but what I'm saying is that the road networks going to south right now is mature. Of course, the northern part of town is also developing and moving forward. And there are a lot of projects also going there. But as we speak today, I'm saying that from my own experience, it's so much easier to travel from Makati going to the southern part of the metro. Now, these are just some of the completed projects which I have shared with you earlier. And look at this. If this will happen in our lifetime, then it's like, being in a first world country, right? If you've been traveling around the world, or if you're in other country right now and you know how good it is in a first world country, then I'm sure something like this, when you see that here in our country, will be really good. I'm so happy to experience this. And I hope, no, if I cannot see this in my lifetime, my kids will be able to enjoy this. And it's going to be like Singapore or Melbourne or Hong Kong. Well, Hong Kong is also super traffic. But what I'm, trying to imply is that one location is so near from another. So it's all interconnected, and traveling from one point to another will be such a breeze. Now, these are just some of the upcoming Megaworld projects. I'm not the best person to tell you about this, but later on, the project team will give you an overview of what they have. But on my personal experience, I'm also a Megaworld project holder. I have properties in the South developed by Megaworld. So I put where my, I put my money where my mouth is. Simple as that. And finally, these are just some of the near-term expectations. Pogo, as mentioned, they have exited the country because of the business environment, but there are still some who are here and still taking space, taking condos left and right. The BPO industry, the outsourcing industry, despite what's going on around the world, it's still forecasting growth. And I think it's not a trend. It's here to stay because companies will always find ways to be efficient and to cut on cost. And the best way to do that is to outsource non-core work. And the Philippines is already in the world stage. When companies talk about outsourcing, the Philippines will always be on top of mind, and it's going to be always part of the first option. So it's going to be a growing industry. And the talent that we have here in the Philippines is really the driving force. A lot of young Filipinos, very young, average age of 25 years old. Almost everyone can speak English. And that's why they're growing here. So we need to support this industry. The government is supporting them, and educating, of course, the Filipinos would be one way to make this industry stronger. Now, the build projects and all that, the township developments outside Metro Manila will be very important. And the current administration is pushing that, balik probinsya, moving development and urbanization outside Metro Manila to decongest also the metro. That's why the nearby provincial areas are growing. As mentioned, Cavite, Laguna, all the way up there, and then northern part of the country as well. And then house and lot and high-end condos, or condos that are green or LEED, or they have lots of facilities, open spaces, so that the family will enjoy, will be able to relax, will feel at ease, will feel healthy and safe. And then e-commerce, I did not really touch a lot about this, but the e-commerce is growing primarily because everyone now is buying things online. And it is also pushing growth in the warehousing and logistics market here in the Philippines. Now, what are the medium and long-term expectations, or I would say trends? These are the things that we will see beyond 2021 and probably up to 2022 onwards. So the pandemic is a realization that, there is really it's important to have a nice place, a nice location, a nice home, because you'll spend a lot of your time there. And therefore, a lot of companies and developers right now are looking at even improving their product, making sure that it is in a good location, very near the workplace. So, that work, live, play type of environment will all the more be very important moving forward. And outside Metro Manila, we still have a lot of land, a lot of place to develop, and Megaworld is leading the way in doing that. Now, better road and infrastructure, we need that. The Philippines need to address this so that our attractiveness to foreign investors also will move up, because we want to be a first world country someday. If we can't be alive by then, we hope that the next generation can see that and can feel that. And so infrastructure should really be the focus, right? Build roads, airports, so that when foreigners come in, they'll see a beautiful airport, international standard, and then internet connection, the telco. All these have to be developed and improved so that more and more companies, more and more investors will come here in the Philippines and employ the Filipinos. And in return, of course, fuel the growing economy. The OFW in the past used to be the main driver, and up to today they are. The overseas Filipino workers are the ones also moving the economy, the remittance that they are sending here in the Philippines. And most of them are also buying properties here in the Philippines. And then finally, the credit rating from these loans, no, the banks are lowering the interest rates. And eventually, when the economy opens up again, and hopefully the vaccination will happen this year or early next year, and the pandemic will somehow subside, then that will be a good opportunity. And many banks will definitely open loans. You can have your property as a collateral, or to buy a property, you need to have a good credit rating also if you want to borrow from the bank. And finally, the single detached, I've shared this. It's not going to be just a short-term trend, but it's going to be a long-term one. Single detached homes or condominiums that are, of course, healthy, safe, lots of open air, lots of open facilities, and somehow everything is near you. You live, work, and play in one area will be the key thing, not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world. And with that, of course, the last question is why invest now? I've shared so many data, and my goal really is not to push you to make a decision, but just to give you information so that you can make the sound and right decision for yourself. So why invest now? I've shared so many reasons why. This is again one of the quotes that I love and I always like to share, because Warren Buffett is one of the most I would say successful investors in this world. And up to today, he is well respected. So he said, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy only when others are fearful. So this is a pandemic, a global crisis, and everyone's saying, hold on to your cash, be conservative. Now, I'm saying that the real estate industry, the real estate market is always a good place to put your money, better than putting it in the bank. And if you have the cash, if you have the money, then put it in the real estate market. This is a long-term play. And I always share also that if you buy something that you like and you hold on to it, whatever happens in the market, in the environment, whether you'll be able to sell it in the future or not, but if you like it, diba, you'll be happy to have it. So there's no, there's nothing to lose in that aspect, right? You buy something that you want. Eventually, it will move up, appreciate in value. If you want to sell it in the future, why not? Or just give it to your children, hand it down to your loved ones. So always the real estate market is a long-term play and a very good investment, one of the safest investment in the world, I'd say. So with that, you may follow us online if you want to know more about what's happening in the real estate market. And this is the team, happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding my presentation. So thank you very much, and I hope you're having a great time wherever you are.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sheila, for sharing your thoughts and insights on the current trends in real estate. Ms. Sheila actually raised some good points that will helpfully guide our audience in choosing their next property investment. Firstly, we have to remember that slowly things are recovering. Yes, it may take time, but even during this pandemic crisis, opportunities will present itself for the next years to come. In line with these opportunities, the Build projects outside Metro Manila will bring even more businesses and provide growth in provincial areas such as Cavite. With the developments of road networks and airports in the southern part of the country, it's now so much easier to travel from the metro to the south. Another takeaway we can get from the presentation is the live, work, play environment, in which will even be more important and relevant moving forward. Lastly, Ms. Sheila emphasized how real estate is always a good place to put your money whether you plan to sell it in the future or not. Again, we'll have a short question and answer portion later with all of our speakers for